Recently, you got to see my worst albums of the year. Now it's time for the best albums of the year. Unlike that one though, this video isn't exclusively Japanese albums. It's only mostly Japanese albums. Because if you're new around here, this is a Japanese music channel. That's probably like 70% of what I listen to. Number 10 was actually pretty difficult for me to decide this year. I felt like there was a really definite top 8 or 9, and then it was just a toss-up for the last spot, but I'm giving it to Parade by Takeshi Nakatsuka. It's a consistently upbeat and energetic electropop album from a Japanese producer who's been around way longer than I first realized. He's probably best known for doing soundtracks, including for bad anime like My Dress Up Darling, and good anime like Magical Girl Ore. If you're wondering about the vibe of this album, it starts with a Pac-Man tie-in called Ladies in Pac-Man. That should tell you most of what you need to know. It's kind of quirky J-pop that alternates between electropop, Shibuya-kei, and more EDM-inspired songs. It blends all these styles together really cohesively over its 35 minutes, but the biggest highlights are going to be the title track and Dreaming of the Future. That title track is more indebted to 80s dance pop, making good use of a loud, thumping drum beat and some glitchy sound effects. That general glitchiness is kind of present all over this album, but I think that track's where it really shines the most. Dreaming of the Future is more Shibuya-kei styled, but it's one of the best songs I've ever heard within that genre. It makes great use of the glitchy percussion and its horns, and it's just so much fun. This is a really good album, and I think it just barely edges out a lot of the competition it had for the number 10 spot. At number 9, it's Lily Fury's Hinemosphere EP, which is an EP, but it's also longer than one of the albums on this list, so I'm counting it. I know a lot of people are putting Parannoul's album on their best of the year lists, me included later on, and I think those people should really check this out too. Lily Fury is very clearly inspired by Parannoul, but they do the best job with the style from anyone that isn't, Parannoul. This is apparently a concept album about lesbian robots in space, which is awesome. Every track ends with some crackly radio voice clip, but I don't know Japanese, so sadly I'm missing out on most of the story with this one. I've tried to find a translation, but this thing is so obscure that I haven't been able to. What I can tell you though is that the non-story parts of this thing absolutely rip. The title track, Hinemosphere, not only rivals, but is better than a lot of the stuff on Parannoul's After the Magic. Everything on this is fantastic. The drums are super on point, the vocals are forceful but wistful, and it all explodes at the end into a really nice climax. It's one of my favorite songs of the year. The other two songs on this EP, Stealth Raider and Lilium Aquarium, are also both great. Stealth Raider mixes it up a lot with metal-inspired sections and more electronic-oriented parts thrown around, and Lilium Aquarium is a lot quieter up until the end, where it all burns. It's driven by an energetic breakbeat and mournful vocals. It's a little change of pace to end the EP, and it's great. This is easily one of the best shoegaze projects of the year, and if you want more Lily Fury, they had another album out called Anthology. I wasn't as big on that one, but it does have a song on it called Starfinder, which is fire and rivals anything here. It holds a special place in my heart, so check that one out too. Number 8 on this list, it's the bercedes menz with their debut album, The Bercedes Menz's Happy Children. This is a fast-paced garage rock album that I fell in love with instantly. I'm not super into this kind of noisy garage rock normally, but it incorporates a lot of elements of more traditional J-rock, and it does them really well. This is an album that's consistent the whole way through. It's banger after banger with almost no low points. There's a lot of distortion and noise on this. Canopy is an excellent J-rock song with perfect vocals for the edgier, louder style that it's going for, and yet they're able to work well without that edge, as Reminiscence leans into a much cleaner style of rap rock, and it does a fantastic job there. There's also Dance Dance Your First Love Is Dead, which is a personal favorite of mine. It's a super catchy and memorable closing track that I think works really well. This album came out kinda late into the year, so I think it got passed up a little, but it's worth a listen. It's amazing. At number 7, it's Fine Line by Pasocom Music Club. This thing is a 30-minute shot of energy. Their last album, Sea Voice, came out in the midst of the pandemic, and it was a lot more subdued. Granted, I do love that album, but its atmospheric drum and bass was a bit of a departure from the loud and energetic synth pop that was littered all over a record like Dreamwalk. It felt like a more meditative, home listening experience instead of the hype club songs that they're typically known for. However, with Fine Line, Pasocom Music Club is very much back on their party shit. They sound more club ready than ever before, and they sound excited about it. Like, take the tracks Pump and UFO Me. Both of these are hyperactive pop rap songs that waste absolutely no time in getting you moving. Pump features Kelmiko, who really bring the energy anywhere they go. They're a great fit here as they trade verses over a frantic electronic instrumental. And UFO Me has the a hair kid from Milk Talk going crazy over a house beat, and it doesn't let up for even a second. This album goes through some phases. You start with energetic synth pop cuts on tracks like Kick and Go, then you move into some of their most straightforward club material to date on Sport Cut and Amitnak, and then towards the end of the album, Fine Line enters a bit more of a reflective stretch, with tracks like the stunningly beautiful Day After Day, a song that sees Mei Takahashi of Lawsbub doing some excellent bittersweet singing. It's the vibe of C-Voice, but adapted to the house style that's more prevalent on this album. All of these styles and sounds flow together really well, and they take you on a constantly engaging half-hour tour of Pasocom Music Club's unique brand of electronic music. They're one of my favorite groups in Japan right now, and they show no signs of slowing down anytime soon. At number 6, finally, the first non-Japanese album on the list, George Clanton's Urap-aya. Here's some lore. I used to be really into the future funk scene. Like, before I got deep into Japanese music, I went way down the future funk and the vaporwave rabbit holes. And while the vaporwave scene is pretty much completely dead and buried at this point, George Clanton has ended up as one of very few survivors. He's progressed from being one of the leading vaporwave artists with his Esprit Fantasy project to being one of the best pop musicians out there today. This is his first solo record since 2018's Slide, and that album was amazing. With both the quality of that album and the long wait in between, expectations were through the roof, and yet he smashed them. This is a fantastic album that perfectly nails a 90s psychedelic vibe. It feels like a natural progression of Slide, building on the things that were great about that record and adding new twists to them. It's a heavier album with expert synth layering and sparkling melodies that make it super easy to get lost in, and make it one that's easy to come back to again and again. Tracks like I Been Young feel like extended versions of the sound found on Slide, with swirling synths and an explosive chorus, while Punching Down adds a lot of vocal effects and some almost glitchy aspects that make it a personal favorite of mine. There's also a title track and For You I Will, both of which get shoegazy at points with all the reverb expanding the synths in the mix. It's a magical album. I think it's one that will really appeal to a lot of different people, and one that's gonna hold up for a very long time. At number 5, it's back over to Japan for EO by Cero. It's another psychedelic album, but it's much calmer than the George Clanton one. There's actually a lot of similarities here. Both artists had a 5-year wait from their last album, and both new albums feel like a very natural psychedelic expansion of the sound found in the old one. Although if Urap-aya feels more like being in a blizzard, EO feels like laying in a grassy field. Cero are finding an identity as pop experimentalists on this album, stretching these artsy and electronic sounds as far as they can, while still creating something that has a lot of mainstream appeal. One striking thing to me is how well this album makes use of space. Every note on this album feels valuable, and Cero's excellent sound design and mixing only add to this effect. It makes moments like the harmonies of Tableau, the ending synths of Nemesis, and the drops of Sleepera truly special. This is one of the best produced albums that really I've ever heard. Nothing on this album ever feels like it's out of place. It's all perfectly put together and very deliberate in its construction. Cero are kind of touring their psychedelic approaches around the pop spectrum here. There's bits of woozy dream pop thrown into tracks like Cupola. There's also FDF, which takes more of a funkier J-pop inspired approach, but adds unique elements like the escalating synth lines and the incredible drumming. There's elements of glitch pop on Solon. Hell, Cero even tries out a bit of rapping towards the end of Epigraph, and even that ends up working for them. And all this weaves together to create a singular experience, and one that I think is really exciting. This is a rare album that kind of instantly grabbed me on first listen. I put this thing on, and within 3 to 4 tracks, I knew I was listening to something special. It's an album that's more than the sum of its parts, and I think is best experienced as a whole, because the way it weaves everything together throughout the whole album is just as impressive as a lot of the songs themselves. At number 4, it's JPEGMAFIA and Danny Brown with Scarin' the Hose. I know this is a Japanese music channel and I don't talk about Western music much, but I love JPEGMAFIA. I mean, I wear an LP hoodie in a pretty good number of my videos. I feel like this was kind of the consensus rap album of the year, and I am perfectly fine with that because it is also my favorite rap album of the year. There's certain albums like Cero that I think are best experienced at home on your best possible setup. And then on the complete opposite end, there's albums like Scarin' the Hose, which are best experienced on awful car stereos. That's probably where I listen to this record the most, actually. There's a really good variety in beats here. Some of my favorites are the frantic drum and bass on Fentanyl Tester, the sample of an NFL theme song on Perfect, and the Japan-inspired chaos on Kingdom Hearts Key, which does actually sample an obscure 90s J-pop song. See, this album fits into my channel, kind of. Kingdom Hearts Key is actually probably my favorite on the album, as it brings in Red Veil Parannoul, another rapper I really like, to do the record's only feature. And it's a really good one because he absolutely kills it. This thing absolutely rips. I don't think it quite lives up to the highs of an album like LP, but it definitely gets close. It's in the conversation for sure. JPEGMAFIA has got to be the best rapper going right now, and Danny Brown's up there as well. For number 3, we move to an album I hinted at earlier, After the Magic by Parannoul. My first listen of this album was magical. No pun intended. There was a YouTube premiere stream the night before this album came out, and the moment the drop on Polaris hit, I was like, holy shit, this is the best moment I'm gonna have with music all year. And to be fair, it was. The first 4 songs on this album are absolutely mind-blowing, to the point where I bought the vinyl pre-order as soon as it went up. I was probably one of the first people to buy it. This was my album of the year for a while, but it did kind of slip at the end of the year. I think most of that, though, is due to other albums growing on me, less than this actively growing off me in any way. However, it is a bit front-loaded. Like, the first 5 songs are some of the best shit I've ever heard, while the back half is merely really good. As I said, though, Polaris is easily one of the best songs of the year. The opening bit is beautiful, with the jangly guitar and upbeat vocals, an immediate contrast from the constant depression that was his last album to see the next part of the dream. Then that drop in the middle hits, and it's absolutely heavenly. It's easily the most striking and immediate first listen of anything I've had in years. And then from there, it's an amazing, spacey shoegaze section. God, it's such a good song. Parannoul's mixing it up here a lot more than he did on his first album too, and I think despite some growing pains, he's better off for it. There's a lot more evident inspiration from indie rock on tracks like We Shine at Night and Imagination. He's more willing to include actual quiet stretches, like on the ending track in the first part of Arrival. He's really building up his sound and showing growth as an artist, and I think that's going to make him really promising in the future. For number 2, an album so good I drove 2 hours out to Tulsa so I could see it live, HELLMODE by Jeff Rosenstock. If you know me, you know Jeff Rosenstock is easily my favorite artist of all time. I own a ton of his records on vinyl. I've been wearing a HELLMODE t-shirt this whole video. He's the guy that got me into music when I was in middle school, and this channel and my record collection and everything stems from that one time when I turned on his album Post and had my mind blown. I've loved him ever since, and it's really easy to love him when he keeps coming out with albums that are this good. One of my favorite parts of his music is how much his albums resonate with me, and that's so prevalent here. Doubt is one of the biggest things that got me through what was probably the worst summer of my entire life. That thing came out 6 months ago, and yet I feel like it's been with me forever because it's something I've thought about so often. I was having a really bad time when this whole record came out too, and it just helped me feel that little bit better. It was so good. Jeff's lyricism on this album is some of his best, up there with the likes of Post. There's some great blunt lyrics on tracks like I Wanna Be Wrong and Graveyard Song, which adds some further anxiety into the album that all boils over onto the closing track, the incredible 7-minute epic 3 Summers, which is just a career highlight for him, as if he didn't have enough of those already. And this is an album that's fantastic on record, but it's also the only one on this list I've had the privilege of being able to see live. And let me fangirl about that for a second, because it was amazing. Jeff Rosenstock is so energetic and his music is so full of life. He's got a great stage presence. It's easily the best concert I've ever been to. I drove 2 hours out there, had a great time, and drove 2 hours back so I could go to class the next morning. I didn't get back until almost 2 a.m., and it was absolutely worth it. And even the songs on the album that I thought weren't quite as good shine so bright in the live setting. Like Do You Better became one of my favorite songs on the album. Soft Living is super good live. HELLMODE is a nice little break in both the set list and the track list, and all this just made me love the album even more. It was a really, really strong contender for number 1, because it means so much to me. I absolutely adore this album. And then before number 1, some very quick honorable mentions since I said it was a toss-up for 10th. Sick Boy's Hollow is a really fun Japanese rap album with some amazing features. Genesis Owusu's Struggler has him pivot a bit into post-punk, and it's cool. Heavy Heavy by Young Fathers has a really fun and unique sound. Never Falter Hero Girl by Katie Day slowly builds up into a fantastic title track that completely floored me the first time I heard it. And The Novembers by The Novembers is a great self-titled record from a long-running J-rock band. And finally, my number 1, the best album of the year, Good Pop by Japanese hyperpop group TASTA. This is not just the best album of the year, but it's also the best album in the entire hyperpop genre. It's sugary, sweet energy being shot directly into your veins. It's kind of like heroin if it was good for you. This is the shortest album on the list. It's only 22 minutes long, and that short size is honestly perfect for a record like this. It does a lot in that short time frame, constantly throwing up catchy melodies, great production, and just pure good vibes at you. It's fun, chaotic, upbeat. It's the purest form of everything I love about music. I haven't been able to get enough of it recently. This thing goes all over the place, from smooth J-pop to crazy glitch pop to drum and bass to hip-hop to hardcore club, all in just 20 minutes. It's a wild ride that ends up being an adventure no matter how much you listen to it. And this thing just gets better on repeat listens. This is an album that only really started to move into my #1 spot after like 10 listens. There's so much going on here, and it just keeps getting better with time. Soon a Merry Smoke is really slick. It's probably the most restrained song on the album as well. It would work amazingly as a more mainstream J-pop cut if you cut out some of the auto-tune and the drops. It's so catchy. Peanut Phenomenon is undoubtedly the most deranged thing I've heard all year, blasting between verses delivered by a peanut VTuber and insane walls of crunchy noise throughout the chorus. Finger Frame enlists Mamiko from Kelmiko to deliver a calmer song, with bittersweet vocals over a great trap-tinged beat. River Relief is probably the best song on here, with feature Soshi Sakiyama propelling its absolutely insane style of drum and bass. Blank Benzo sees fellow hyperpop act Peter Parker 69 delivering the stunning melodies that they're best known for. Turtle Thief features an incredibly catchy melody of its own and is one that sticks in your head constantly and never leaves. And Zip Zapper throws in every other bit of chaos they could think of to end this thing off with a bang. Japan's hyperpop scene really had a surge this year, and this is kind of the culmination of all that. They take some of the key names from that scene, like Peter Parker 69 and Quando, while blending them together with surprisingly mainstream features like Mamiko and Soshi Sakiyama. Like, the latter did a Jujutsu Kaisen song a couple months after this album came out, and I think that level of name recognition, combined with their work for more mainstream-friendly acts like Pasocom Music Club and Boen, is really helping to push this brand of Japanese hyperpop forwards. This is not just an amazing album, but looking at the success it's had, I think it's going to be an incredibly influential one going into the future. It feels like it's blowing the doors wide open for the whole Japanese hyperpop scene, and I'm excited to see where all this goes next into 2024. Thank you for watching. I'll probably wrap this up with a big run through of all the really cool albums that I didn't get to talk about, and then that'll be it for lists this year. Like, comment, sub, you know. Bye!